Moving anywhere is a big decision, especially when it's across states, across countries, city to city. It is a big decision with lots of challenges and a lot of work ahead of you. Now, if you've made that decision to move out of your current location, this video, moving to Fort Collins in 2025, is gonna give you 7 steps to hopefully make that process just a little bit easier. Now, we've helped hundreds of families move to Northern Colorado, so I've dialed this in a little bit and updated it for 2025, specifically to Fort Collins in Northern Colorado, and some of the legislative changes and challenges and things that are happening that might be a little bit different from our original moving to Fort Collins video. Now, my name is Patrick Soukup, and this is the Living in Fort Collins YouTube channel where you come to learn everything there is to know about Fort Collins and Northern Colorado. Eating, sleeping, playing, working, and moving to Fort Collins in 2025. Now, if you're considering relocating, give my team and I a text, call, or email, whatever is most convenient for you. Like I said, we've helped hundreds of families move to the area and have really dialed in and become experts in that process. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing here in Northern Colorado, give us a call, text, or email. Without any further delay though, let's jump into today's video, the 7 steps of moving to Fort Collins in 2025. Let's go. All right, step number 1 is deciding if Fort Collins is for you. Exploring the area, coming and taking an exploratory trip, jumping in with us in one of our vehicles and taking a city and area tour. And understanding what the cost of living is, the job market, the economy, school system, and all of those things. Because while yes, we're not necessarily the value buy that we were in the late 90s and early 2000s, where we were ranked as one of the best places to live, if not the best place to live in Money Magazine, but also had more of an affordable places to live vibe as well. That is no longer the case. While we are not as expensive as Denver or Boulder, we are one of the more expensive places in Colorado. That being said, a big driver to move here is the lifestyle that is Fort Collins in Northern Colorado. Between the 280 plus miles of paved trails and bike lanes, ranking us a platinum rated bike community, to all of our parks, nearly 1,000 acre of community and neighborhood parks, it is a big push for people to move to the Napa Valley of beer, which is the craft brewery scene of the United States, Fort Collins, the OG New Belgium. It's a big push for people to move here is the lifestyle, but you have to understand the also cost of living and all of those other aspects as well. We had a family that was considering moving here from El Paso. They were looking for a house that just wasn't in their budget. They wanted a 5,000 square foot house, backing to water, having mountain views for under $1 million. That does not exist in Fort Collins. It might exist an hour or two within Fort Collins, but not Fort Collins anymore. So making sure that you understand the cost benefit of cost of living, economy, job market, things of those nature, with the pros and benefits of the lifestyle, the safety, all of the other types of things. But the first step that you've got to decide is Fort Collins for you. And if it's not, that is okay. Number 2, you've got to decide whether you want to buy or rent. Now, we've talked with clients how we've worked with them, clients on the spectrum of buying versus renting first. And as far as buying a house, sight unseen, and the first time that they see it is actually a month after they close, which gives us a lot of anxiety. We hope we've done a lot of our due diligence and it's a great property from them. To the other end of the spectrum where they've rented long-term for 2 years prior to buying a house. And we can help you understand what fits your situation, your comfort level. You know, are you a military family where you've moved 4 times in the last 8 years and it's just 4 walls and a roof is all you care about? Or are you someone that, hey, this house is gonna be ours for the next 10, 15, 20 plus years? We've gotta make sure that it's dialed, and this is only our first purchase in our life, so we're just really anxious. We can talk through all of those things. But you could look at whether it be buying first, which obviously we'd love to be an asset and a benefit to you and your team when you're moving here to Northern Colorado. And same thing on the rent side. While we don't necessarily work as an agent capacity, we can work as a resource and an advocate, help you understand areas, connect you with property managers, do an in search of for specific qualifications or criteria that you're looking for, budget, dog, garage, yard, all the above. And then in between is kind of more of like a short-term rental where we have operations in Fort Collins like Penta Homes, Mountain Time Vacation Rentals, Eco Tenant, or Carousel Properties, where it might be 30 days to 6 months or even up to a year that you just want the ability to keep your stuff in storage, have a place that's furnished, and get actively searching for a house when you move here. So step number 2 is deciding whether to buy or rent first when moving to town. Step number 3, if you're considering buying, you gotta align yourself with a team that you know, like, and trust, okay? Now, this is definitely self-serving. My team and I, Soukup Real Estate Services, we've been helping relocating families for the last 5 years and helped hundreds of families move to the area. One of the biggest changes for 2025 that occurred in 2024 is the NAR settlement, which essentially discusses how buyer agency can be represented and how it is operated and essentially discussed with clients. Hopefully, whoever you decide to work with is taking you through a buyer consultation and truly showing their value and what that process looks like, and is essentially important for you to understand, what am I paying for? Because while yes, you might not necessarily be writing a check directly to the buyer agent, you are paying for their commissions by way of purchasing that home at whatever price point that comes in. So step number 3 is aligning yourself with a team. Generally, I would say local is important, making sure that they know the area, the values, connecting with you lenders, insurance agents, have tradespeople that they can connect you with if you're looking for a house that might need a little bit of work. All of that is vitally important when making this big move to an area that isn't necessarily known to you. Step number 4, determining where in Fort Collins and Northern Colorado you want to live. Well, I would say one of the biggest changes that has happened in 2025 in Fort Collins and across Colorado is the ADU law. Essentially, people would used to look at their house and see, they got a main floor, second floor, an unfinished basement, and the basement was this blank canvas. Well, now, when you go and you look at your property, you might want to see it with the same type of visual and eyesight. This is a blank canvas, and on any lot in Fort Collins, Loveland, Timnath, Greeley, pretty much any town in Northern Colorado north of 1,000 population, any lot that has a single family house can build an ADU. So you might be looking at needing a lot that's a little bit bigger because you're gonna have an aging mother-in-law who wants to come in and live with you, or potentially your daughter or son's gonna be going to school there and you wanna allow them to have their own space, but maybe not necessarily buy their own condo. Well, you build an ADU for $100,000, $150,000, $200,000. It's not gonna be cheap, I can promise you that. But maybe it's a little bit less expensive than buying a condo and providing that rental income or security for your son or daughter or mother, father-in-law, or aging grandparent, things of that nature that allows them to live in a great place on the same property. So that's probably the biggest change in 2025, but really, what you really need to consider is a lot of different criteria, and I'm gonna go through a few of these. Safety. Now, I did talk to one client that was moving here from Louisiana, and I said, well, they asked me about a specific neighborhood, and I said, well, it is safe. And he said, Patrick, that's a cop-out. He said, that is not important because everywhere in Fort Collins is safe. And especially where I'm coming from. And I said, hey, that's fair. There's not necessarily a place in Fort Collins that I wouldn't park my car overnight. I was in investment properties and still am for a long time, and there's A class, B class, C class, D class, and beyond. I don't necessarily really see any D class type properties or locations in Fort Collins. Like I said, the litmus test for me is, would I park my car there overnight for safety? So overall, safety is generally pretty good across the area, but there are pockets, and that is a consideration definitely that we want to look at. Walkability versus bikeability. Now, there is currently 45 miles of paved trails in Fort Collins with an additional 70 plus miles coming in the next 10 to 20 years. A lot of that's gonna be in the Northeast, but some of them on the South side and on the West side. But walkability versus bikeability. If you are wanting to bike, well, pretty much anywhere in Fort Collins is going to allow you to do that. Walkability is another thing. There are some pocket neighborhoods and the 15-minute city is a city council priority that you can walk, ride, or scooter essentially anywhere to get all of your conveniences, grocery, restaurants, dental office, all this kind of stuff within 15 minutes of your home. So they are really focusing on trying to make this a walkable, bikeable area within 15 minutes, because right now you are relatively reliant on your vehicle, especially from getting on the southeast side where I live to downtown Fort Collins. Not to say that biking isn't possible. I did it for a week straight. It's just a matter of getting in that habit, but also we have seasonality behind that as well. So understanding the walkability versus bikeability, and is that important to you? And if so, to what extent? And from there, kind of getting your radius of where you're comfortable living. Now, schools. Now, one thing that recently I've talked about with clients that I think is overlooked from a lot of actually even agents is the ability of school of choice in Fort Collins and I believe Colorado. I believe it's in our state statute that school of choice is a thing, but definitely in Fort Collins, the Poudre School District. So what that means to you is you don't have to be in a specific neighborhood to get into a specific school. Now, that's not to say you're guaranteed to get into that school where you would be if you lived in that neighborhood, because maybe there's a max capacity, maybe they're at capacity, but there's only a few schools in all of Fort Collins that are essentially at max capacity and not really able to take school of choice on. So you need to know which schools those are, but if there's a school that does have availability, you don't necessarily need to be in that neighborhood to get into that school because of school of choice. Now, that being said, Northern Colorado has got some great school systems: Poudre School District, Weld County RE4, Thompson Valley School District. And from there, it's essentially where are you comfortable and want to be, and also understanding the school of choice in Fort Collins and the ability to move and live in different neighborhoods that aren't necessarily filtering into that specific neighborhood school. The only caveat to that is you might not necessarily have those neighborhood friends that you might have if you went to the neighborhood school because you're not getting on the same bus with those kids, all that kind of stuff. So that's something to take into consideration and is important to know where to live in Fort Collins. Now, commute is important as well because there are people who look and live in Northwest Fort Collins because they want to get up to the Poudre Canyon real quick, up to Red Feather. That is their vibe. But hey, we have got to drive down to Denver every now and again, and it's just going to add 15 to 20 minutes. Or you're going down to Denver on a weekly basis and you're gonna wanna live on the southeast side because it's gonna cut out 15 to 20 minutes from your commute comparatively to living on the northwest side. Now, that being said, generally speaking, traffic's not a huge deal in Fort Collins. Perspective is everything. If you're coming from Los Angeles, Houston, parts of New York and Boston, all those kind of more dense areas, Seattle, Washington, you are going to see far less traffic. But if you're coming from a place like Haxton, Colorado, sure, it's a lot more traffic. So understanding what your commute is and that you're comfortable with that time and location within Fort Collins and Northern Colorado. And then finally, home size and value. The heart of Fort Collins is gonna be downtown and Old Town Fort Collins, and you could see prices per square foot like $350, $450, $700, $1,000 a square foot if you're in a condo, townhome, high rise on Mountain and College Avenue. Then outside of that, you could see prices $200 to $250 per square foot. A lot more square footage, bigger lot size, but not necessarily in the heart of Fort Collins. So understanding that desire, that need, what are you looking at doing, that walkability versus bikeability, all of those things play in. But step number 4 is determining where within Fort Collins and Northern Colorado you want to live. Step number 5 is submitting offers and negotiating. Now, if you're buying remotely, we're gonna do video tours for you. We're gonna upload them through a Google Drive and you're gonna be able to look through them, ask specific questions. We're gonna get a lot of information on the front end. And then we're also gonna have conversations with the listing agent to discuss what's the activity like? Has there been any offers? Is there any movement from the sellers on the price? All of these things are vitally important, and we're gonna compose an offer that in 2025 is working in a much more balanced market. While yes, we don't have a ton of inventory on the market, we have very discerning buyers. So you're able to go look at a house, take your time, reflect, understand that maybe, depending on your agent's calling to the listing agent to see is the activity there and what type of offers are there any offers, maybe we take a weekend to sleep on it or a night to sleep on it and then make that decision, do we want to make an offer? But all that being said, we're in a much more balanced market because of interest rates and affordability. It's a big factor in buying a house, but also because, inventory is starting to tick up a little bit, starting to sit a little bit longer. So this anxiety or anxiousness or needing to move fast, while might happen on some houses, isn't necessarily happening across the market. And then when we negotiate offers and submit and go under contract, we're gonna be your boots on the ground. We're gonna help you through the process, the inspections, due diligence. We basically got an 11-page buyer process success strategy that we go through to make sure that at the back side, you've had an extremely successful process with a safe, secure, and well, hopefully negotiated house. Step number 6, boots on the ground, the moving and transition to Fort Collins. Now this again is gonna be where a lot of your work's gonna be. All up to this point, it's been kind of hypothetical. We're moving to Fort Collins, we've bought a house, maybe we're closing on it in a couple of weeks, and well now, we gotta move from our current location to the area, and maybe there's work to be done on the house. Maybe you wanted it cleaned, painted, the landscape done. We are here to be those boots on the ground. Maybe we need to get things delivered. We have a bed frames, and we don't want it sitting outside because it's 0 degrees, and we don't want any porch pirates. Not that there's a lot of those, but we don't want any porch pirates coming by. We can meet the UPS drivers or making sure that we're checking on the house on a weekly basis if you're not gonna be moving in for a month, 2 months, 3 months down the road. The worst type of property is a vacant property, so we make sure to keep eyeballs on those properties. Now, here are some actionable steps for this actual transition. I think you need to decide what type of move you're wanting to do. A full DIY, you go get the U-Haul truck, you load it, you drive it, you unload it, or you want maybe something a little bit different, that you got movers coming, you essentially load the truck, they move it, you unload it from there. And then full service movers, where they come, load your house up, they move it, unload it, and you're gonna pay top dollar, but you're not gonna have to deal with it nearly as much as you would on the other 2 options. Now, if you're going with that third option, you're gonna wanna get 3 quotes because they can vary dramatically. In addition, make sure that you're taking pictures of your items when they are loaded previously and during and after, so that if there's any insurance claims, you have proof on that. Now, here are some cheat codes for moving that we've had from different clients over the years. Color coordinate the boxes with sticky dots. Orange for the primary bathroom or primary bedroom, red for the kitchen, green for the kids' bedroom, and give a floor map to the movers with little stickies on rooms that show exactly where things are supposed to go. But before you pack everything up, maybe consider selling or getting rid of some of your furniture and buying in our new location. Now, we've got some good affordable warehouse, American Furniture Warehouse, IKEA's down in Denver, 60 to 70 minutes, and maybe some of these more affordable type furnishings, a dresser that's kind of wobbly when it's moving, might be better to give away or move and save some of those dollars on moving costs for the weight and buy those on your new location. So do a garage sale, get a few extra dollars to help you on your move. But consider selling or getting rid of some of your furniture and buying in a new location because, well, maybe your couch doesn't necessarily fit in the new house that you have. Now, a few other little tips and tricks on moving is if you're moving with pets, making sure that you find a pet-friendly hotel route. In addition to, if you have a lot of your essential need stuff, one of the best comments we had was, boxing that up in a UPS box, shipping it off so that it's not necessarily loading up your car, but it's all the stuff that you need for when you arrive at the house. And then from there, travel according to weather. I would say there's different ways of getting into Fort Collins in northern Colorado, and sometimes taking the longer route, especially if you're traveling with a U-Haul behind you, might be the more safe and less anxious route that you could take. So make sure that you're looking at your future forecast for weather and planning accordingly. Now, our final step is making Fort Collins in northern Colorado feel like home. We have had clients who've moved to the area and then moved out a year later because maybe it just wasn't the right fit or their kids didn't like it or whatever those issues might be. But the majority of people who moved here have really enjoyed the process, have really enjoyed the area, the community. But I will say kind of a determining factor is how much are you pouring in to the area and community? Are you getting involved with bowling leagues or golf leagues or book clubs? And there's lots of different ways, different meetups, different business groups, different board game groups But it's all about how active you get in the community, and that will determine how happy and successful your move is here. Now, maybe you're more of an introvert, homebody, and really all you care about is being able to have a beer on your back porch, looking at the mountains on a nightly basis. That's an opportunity that you're absolutely gonna have as well. From there, I would say enjoying in 2025 what is new. We've connected the 45-mile track from Bellevue to Greeley, the Pooter Trail, and it's finishing this year. In addition, the Siphon Overpass connecting the Power Trail and the Power Trail underway, I'm not sure what it's called, bridge underneath the road or path underneath the road is gonna be finished here in the next couple of years as well. The Southeast Community Center is coming. There's so many different cool developments and things happening in Fort Collins in northern Colorado. The Greeley, the Eagles might be moving to a $2 billion operation, when it's all said and done in West Greeley. So there are just a lot of cool different things that are happening. And I would say making sure that you dive into the area, get involved, meet your neighbors, and it is going to pay dividends. Some of the most successful moves we've had and people who absolutely adore and love Fort Collins are those that might have got a little uncomfortable on the front end by going and meeting random people, but who have now become best friends with those individuals. So that's a very important step. And I would say one of the things that I've enjoyed most is creating different groups. In fact, my wife's a part of a book club, and they call it, they don't call it this. So if you're watching this book club, I am not saying this by any means, but the majority, if not 90% plus of the women in this book club are from wives of clients that have moved here, or clients, we work obviously men, women, all the above, but they are clients or wives of clients who have moved here and now have a great book club going together. And then from there, I meet with a guys group on Wednesday mornings that are all movers and shakers in the area and just super cool people, and being able to connect people. Just the other day, I had somebody from Houston that is very, very highly qualified as far as accounting. What do they call it? I don't know what they call it. It's like forensic accounting. Essentially, it is extremely high level accounting, and was able to introduce him to a friend, a CFO here in town, meet them or get them connected and build relationships. I would say that's probably been the most beneficial things that I've been able to do while running this channel over the last 5 years. So there you have it, people. The 7 steps of moving to Fort Collins, Colorado and Northern Colorado in 2025, updated for some 2025 changes like the ADU, the 45-mile trail that's taking place, a more balanced buying and selling market for real estate. Those are things that are important for you and hopefully can make your transition just a little bit easier. But if you have more detailed questions or want to know more about what it's like moving to the area, or are you yourself interested in moving to Northern Colorado, give myself, my team, and I a call, text, or email. We'd love to answer your questions. And generally speaking, we probably have seen it a time or two before. So thank you for watching, and until next time, take care.